In a world that feels louder and more divided every day, it's easy to believe that kindness is disappearing. News moves fast, people move faster, and empathy often feels like the first thing left behind. But beneath all the chaos, something quieter still exists. Some small moments and unnoticed actions. People and animals choosing care over convenience. These moments don't make headlines, but they matter more than we realize. Because even when everything seems to be falling apart, humanity hasn't vanished. It's just waiting to be seen. When the world feels rushed, you don't expect strangers to slow down for one small moment like this. As a fire truck passed near this child's house, he stepped forward and waved his hand with pure excitement. He was a huge fan, smiling wide, hoping they might notice him. To his surprise, the truck didn't just pass by. It slowed down and then stopped. The lights turned on, flashing just for him. The boy shouted a loud hi, barely able to contain his excitement. But then something even more unexpected happened. One of the firefighters stepped out of the truck, holding something in his hands. He walked toward the child and gently placed a firefighter's helmet on his head. It wasn't for show. It was a gift, and the reaction of that child was unforgettable. The boy stood there, frozen in happiness, before softly saying thank you as the firefighter returned to the truck. Moments later, they drove away, leaving behind a memory that little boy would never forget. And sometimes, kindness doesn't come from uniforms or big moments. Sometimes it comes from the ones who simply want to see you smile. In this home, a little baby was sitting quietly when the family dog decided something was missing. Without being asked or trained, the dog suddenly started making sounds no one had ever heard before.
Is that puppy funny?
Then he began moving his face, tilting his head, stretching his mouth, repeating the sounds again and again. His eyes stayed locked on the baby, watching closely for that reaction. In a world filled with noise, this was a sound made only for joy. And sometimes, the longest waits end in moments that words can't explain. For 3 years, this dog sat quietly by the road, watching cars pass like he always did. But on this day, something felt different. When one car slowed down and finally stopped, the dog froze. Then it hit him. That was his owner. He started running back and forth, crying and pawing at the gate, begging for it to be opened. He even tried jumping over it, unable to contain himself anymore. The moment the gate opened, he sprinted straight toward him. He jumped up, ran in circles, kissed his face again and again, his whole body shaking with excitement. 3 years of waiting poured out in seconds. Some bonds don't fade with time. They just grew stronger. If you think that was the most emotional video, then watch what this man did when he found a little creature struggling for life. Near the seacoast, this man spotted something struggling near the water. A turtle was trapped in plastic bags and tangled nets, barely able to move. Without thinking twice, he ran toward it and carefully picked it up, carrying it away from the waves. The plastic was wrapped tightly around its body, nets pulled against its shell and flippers, making every movement harder. He worked slowly and patiently, removing one piece at a time, careful not to hurt it. It wasn't easy. The plastic resisted, and the nets were tangled deep. After a long struggle, he finally freed the turtle from every last strand. He gently placed it back on the ground. The turtle moved toward the sea, free at last, disappearing into the waves. And sometimes humanity looks like nothing more than pure joy shared in a small moment. In the yard, this little baby was sitting in the water, splashing around and enjoying himself. Nearby, the family dog watched closely, curious and ready to join in. Then he figured something out. The dog started running in circles around the baby, darting in and out of the water, splashing just enough to get a reaction. He would rush away, then suddenly stop and sit right in front of him, waiting. And the baby lost it. The baby's reaction was priceless. Watch this.
Really?
And sometimes the most comforting moments happen when no one thinks they're being watched. This girl suddenly heard her child laughing from inside the room. The laughter was loud, uncontrollable, and unexpected. She rushed in, worried at first, unsure of what she was about to see. What she found stopped her in her tracks. The family dog was sitting with the child, completely on his own, picking the ball and then placing it near the child. Watch the child's reaction to his favorite friend. sometimes, surviving isn't enough. Everyone still needs a place to belong. When this little duck arrived at a rehabilitation center, she was completely alone. Her entire family had been hit by a car, and she was the only one left. No siblings, no parents, no one to follow. She tried to make friends with the other ducks around her, chasing after them and staying close, hoping they would accept her. But they didn't. They ignored her again and again, leaving her on her own. Eventually, one older duck took her in and began staying with her, bringing her along everywhere like a child. But something was still missing. The older duck couldn't teach her what she needed to learn as a baby duck. That's when the caretakers found a group of ducks her own age at a nearby pond. They carefully released her there. The moment she touched the water, she swam straight toward them without hesitation. This time she was accepted. She had finally found the family she was meant to grow up with. And sometimes doing the right thing means risking yourself for someone who can't even ask for help. Along the jagged, slippery rocks of the sea, a man noticed something unusual. A turtle was trapped, wedged tightly between the stones, unable to climb out. The waves kept crashing nearby, pushing it further into danger with every second. It flailed weakly, struggling to free itself, but the rocks held it captive. Without hesitation, the man carefully approached, aware that one wrong step could send him sliding into the cold water. He crouched down, steadying himself on the slick stones, and slowly reached toward the turtle. The weight of its shell, combined with the tight space, made the task much harder than he imagined. He tried pulling it free. Nothing. The turtle barely budged. Wave after wave lapped against the rocks, making every movement precarious. Still, he didn't give up. With patience, he repositioned himself and tried again, giving all his strength. 2 attempts failed. The turtle remained stuck, struggling, trapped, vulnerable. Finally, with one last determined pull, he managed it. The turtle slipped out of the rocks, gliding into the water. It paddled immediately, finally free and safe. And sometimes, even in the busiest streets, a single act of care can change everything for someone struggling with life. On a crowded road, a boy was helping a man who could barely walk. Both his legs and one hand were disabled, so he sat on a small cart. The boy held his hand firmly, pulling him along step by step. Traffic rushed past, horns honked, and people walked by without noticing. But for them, moving forward was a challenge they faced together every single day. Suddenly, a man appeared ahead, stopping right in front of them. The boy paused and looked up, unsure what would happen next. The stranger slowly knelt down, carefully lowering himself to their level. He didn't rush. He didn't glance away. He listened intently to the man and the boy, understanding their struggle before acting. After a moment, he reached out. First, he placed some essential items into the man's lap, then handed over money. But the stranger didn't stop there. Gently, slowly, he lifted the man and placed him onto a proper wheelchair. Every movement was deliberate, careful, and full of respect. As the man settled into the wheelchair, his happiness overflowed. He hugged the helper, gratitude written all over his face. The boy smiled, started to move forward again with the man safely beside him.